Tell me about what you saw here today.
Well,
and when did you see it?
I really didn't see much. By the time I got here, they told me what had happened. And it was, like I said, it was very shocking because, like I said, I never know Mr. Dennis. Since I've been living here, I've never known Mr. Dennis to be a violent person. You know, I used to laugh at him, when I go by, he'd be outside his gate, and stuff like that. But like I said, he never appeared to be a violent person or whatever. But like I said, it was pretty shocking. It was very shocking.
So this is someone who lives here, the suspect lives here in Jacksonville?
Yes, sir. He lives right there.
Where's right there?
At the house where it happened.
Like literally right a couple meters
right
from
there.
here.
Yeah,
So
that's why I said I didn't hear anything. I wasn't here. But by the time I got here and found out what had happened, that's why I said it was very shocking because, like I said, I've never known him to be a violent person or nothing like that. That's how I thought. It might have been some youngsters that did something or something like that. But like I said, the last thing I thought it would be Mr. Dennis.
do you live here as well, sir?
Yes, sir.
So let me ask you, when did you get here and what was the first thing you saw?
Well, when I first got here, it was, the cops were here. And so they started, taping off the scene or whatever. And I was like, what's going on? So then by the time we had learned word that what had happened, I was like, wow, who did that? And then we found out it was Mr. Dennis. I was like, wow, that was hard to believe.
Because my understanding, this is an officer-involved shooting. What was your reaction to that?
I couldn't believe that because, like I said, I've never known nobody to go around shooting cops or whatever. And I said, it was very shocking. Nothing like that happened around here.
No, nothing like that ever happens.
No, not shooting cops, man. I probably thought that, two pedestrians that had a shootout or something like that. But the last thing I thought was a cop got shot.
And how long has this been cordoned off for?
Wow, it's been at least 4 hours now.
At least 4 hours?
Yeah, probably longer because, like I said, they were here when I got here.
And what time did you get here?
I made it here about 5.
And when you got here, was the police presence already here?
Yeah, they were on the scene.
What stood out to you the most over the last few hours?
That they're still here.
Yeah.
And I was wondering, is he still there, still at large, or what?
Have you heard any loud noises or anything like that? Anything?
Nah, it sounded like they were going in earlier, but I don't guess they did because, like I said, they're still here. And I don't know if they located them or not. They're still at large or whatever.
But overall, you're pretty surprised, you'd say.
Yeah, very surprised.
Why?
Because, like I said, I've never known him to be a violent person. He's a pretty good, cool old guy. Like I said, I ride by, I laugh at him, whatever. He's pretty funny to me. And like I said, the last thing I thought he'd be shooting police,
And you've been surprised the police presence as well, you said.
Yes, very, very. Especially on a Sunday, because like I said, I know that, things happen, but, it's Sunday and, cops are everywhere. I mean, all types, you got the county, you got DPS, a lot of them. So I knew it had to be serious.
And just one last thing before I forget, describe to me one more time just what you saw when you got here and when.
I mean, law enforcement everywhere. They ran through here with their guns, and that's what made me know it had to be a violent incident because they had their guns drawn. But like I said, the last thing I thought was a cop got shot. I thought it might have been some youngsters or some, doing something crazy. But I definitely didn't think Mr. Dennis had shot a cop.
Anything I didn't ask you that you would like to add?
I mean, just prayers for the police and prayers for Mr. Dennis. It's a sad situation.